Hi everyone, welcome to the GOGLA and Lighting Global webinar on the Global Off-Grid Solar Market Report, Semi-Annual Sales and Impact Data Collection. We are here in the GOGLA office in Utrecht, and Lighting Global are hopefully still sleeping in Washington, but we're hoping that today we'll be able to share with you some of the key points about the solar market report as a whole, and particularly how the questionnaire and the data collection works. We appreciate that you've all taken the time to join us. We also want to let you know that we'll be keeping you all on mute until the Q&A session to prevent any echoes. But if you have any questions that come up during the webinar, you can type them in the chat box, or you can save them until the Q&A session, and then we can unmute you then. So we have a full agenda for today. We are going to start by looking at the market report overall, what it is, what are some of the highlights from the data that we've been able to collect in previous rounds, and looking at why companies choose to participate in this reporting process. And then the main portion of the webinar is how do you participate, how do you operate on the new online platform that we have developed between GOGLA and IFC. And then we have space for questions and answers. And I'd like to introduce now the Executive Director of GOGLA, Koen Peters. He is going to talk about the highlights from previous reports and what this report really is.
Thank you, Laura, and good morning to everyone. Good afternoon for whom this afternoon. And indeed, we want to talk about the Global Off-Grid Solar Market Report. This is a report that GOGLA started doing jointly with Lighting Global since now a few years ago. And I think we're going into the fifth round of data collection, of half-year data collection. And this has evolved significantly over that period from initially a simple exercise where we collected information on an Excel spreadsheet towards an increasingly more elaborated exercise, but hopefully also with more reliable and robust data. And this is now increasingly being seen in the sector as the go-to information, the definite source of information of how sales and impact data in the sector are developing. Would like to emphasize that what we are reporting is the reported sales by the companies that are participating. We don't want to claim that we are giving a full overview of everything that's being sold in the market. The total sales in the market are larger than that, but this is as a piece of information that's built up from the basis, the most reliable kind of sales data that we can imagine. We are publishing this information in the form of three different outputs. First of all, individual companies that participate in the sales data collection will get individualized market reports that they can find from the current round onwards online. In the past, we used to send this separately as a PDF. That PDF will still be available for download and sharing, but we will move towards a new platform where information can be made accessible online. And as we did in the past, there will be also a public market report with aggregated data at a slightly more summarized level, slightly less granular and less refined than we make available to individual companies. In the next reports, we will have, as we had in the past, results of our sales data collection, and combined with that information about turnover in the industry. And we also will report the social impact data based on the framework for measuring social impact data as established in the GOGLA social impact working group. In the individual reports, we'll get more refined granular data, as I mentioned, including individualized market shares per region, per country, and per product category, also indicating to what extent products are being quality verified and were not. And we will make that information available to participating companies, and where we can continue to protect the confidentiality of the information by making sure that we have information from more than 3 reporting companies, from 3 or more. So the purpose of that is to make sure that we have historic trend lines of how sales and turnover in the industry is developing. So a systematic set of data, comparable from one set to the other as much as possible, so that we have a good basis for analysis of what is happening in our market in terms of trends and market changes that we see as an important source of market intelligence. So this will provide concrete, detailed market intelligence. It's important for both our industry members and our investors to make decisions, but also for us to help advocacy in the industry as a whole. Some figures here of what we got out of the last round of sales data. We have a total figure of 4.3 million products sold in the first half of 2016, up from 4.1 million in the second half of 2015. In terms of a growth in numbers, not a big product, but as we have been tracking this for a while, we see some seasonality. We've also in the report explained how this breaks down per region and what are some underlying clarifications for developments that we see. There's a figure in there for turnover, 139 million. At the moment, this is cash sales only. We didn't get sufficient feedback on turnover of pay-as-you-go. We do hope that from this round onwards, we'll also get more information about pay-as-you-go revenue so that we can start reporting that as well. There's information of how that splits into quality verified products, and that is Lighting Global quality verification standard, and non-quality verified. And of course, non-verified doesn't mean it's a low quality product, but it just means that it's not verified according to the Lighting Global quality assurance system. And we also have some clarifications about the increase in revenues and the cumulative sales since we started, or since IFC Lighting Global started in July 2010. As you see in the next slide, we have broken it down into a region. In individualized reports, we will break it down to individual countries. And one thing that tells us is that there's continued high concentration of our market in East Africa and in India. But we also do see that there's a slow decline in this concentration. The market is picking up also in other parts of Africa and other parts of Asia. We also see from this report trends in a larger number or faster growth in products with higher capacities. Some information here on the social impact. As some of you might be aware, we have in our working group on social impact prepared a fairly extensive document which provides a framework on how do we calculate social impact data based on a harmonized set of assumptions as far as possible, established on the basis of research in the field. And the idea is that everybody, that this is making it possible for everybody to report impacts of the sector on the same set of assumptions. Not necessarily exactly true. When we say 100 million people have improved energy access, of course that might be a few that might differ in the field, but if everybody sticks to the same assumptions, then at least we get comparable data. It also shows how much savings have been made on energy-related spending by people replacing kerosene, battery, car battery charging, telephone charging, candles, etc. Interestingly enough, that number has declined somewhat as the sales in higher product numbers have increased. Which is explainable because people are then spending money for energy needs that are not replacing, but they couldn't fulfill in the past. I think this as an indication, this is sufficient for now, but feel free to look at the report for more clarification. So why should individual companies participate in the off-grid solar market report? Well, we basically for two reasons. Firstly, because it helps your company individually, and secondly, because it helps the sector in which the companies are the companies are participating. Direct added value is you get personalized market data. You get it at a more granular level than in the public report. The degree of granularity that we can provide depends on the number of reports we get, because we're only providing information that we can anonymize by sticking to the 3-point data rule, only for categories, segments where we have 3 or more reports, we will provide details. But as we get an increasing number of companies, in the last report 50 companies participated, that means that for many countries we will be able to provide details at the level of category per country, and an increasing number. And we don't provide that information in the public report at that level of granularity. So if you participate, you get more detailed information. But just as important is that through your contribution, you help build the sector. You get recognition for that. We list the names of companies that are participating in the report. As an example, we've been lobbying over the last 6-7 months very hard for a change of the tariff import duty policy in the East Africa community. Changes that were made in June towards import duties, and the sales data has helped us enormously to make our case towards the EAC Commission and the ministries in those countries, as we can demonstrate to them how important this sector is and how quickly it develops. So I think that's an important argument for you to contribute. But don't take it just from us. We've also asked some of our members to give some comments on this. Radhika Thakkar in Greenlight Planet and a couple of board member has told us that it helps us importantly, it helps Greenlight Planet to decide where and how they spend their time and resources, and where the market is expanding. And they give us feedback on when they're doing things that are not working out as well as they should. Ned Tozen, D-Light, also encouraging other companies to contribute. He says you have much to gain by sharing information. It's kept totally confidential, and by sharing you will get access to valuable insights. Gregory Durand, Total, who's a large last mile distributor of solar lighting, says the reports are crucial to them because they are helpful to attract new players and investors to the sector, and this is the most accurate information that we have in the market today. At this stage, I will hand over to Laura to give you more information on the next round details.
Great. So I have a few slides just about practicalities, and then we'll go into how the new online platform works. So in terms of the timeline, Next week, you will be receiving an individual link to access this week, end of this week, you'll be receiving a link to access the questionnaire online. And each company has its own link. You can share access to the questionnaire between different members of your company as well. We then keep it open for a few weeks to let everyone respond, and then we move into the data processing and analysis part. And we do need timely input from you so that we can really get started on this. We have found in previous rounds that the data processing is actually quite a complex undertaking, partly because we are very careful to follow the 3 data point rule, and also because there is sometimes some back and forth with companies just to get clarifications or corrections. So that's why it does take us a few months at our end between GOGLA, IFC, and Berenschot, who is our technical data research partner. We then, in May, we will release the individual results, and again, those go to each company individually to specific people who the company has specified will receive the results. And then within the company, people can make different decisions on who they share the results with. On the public report side, we publish that at GOGLA and at IFC and disseminate it quite widely at different sector events, to different financiers, to different stakeholders. And then in July, we'll start another round. And hopefully in following rounds, we can further streamline the process, but it will always be a balance between getting it as timely as possible, but also making sure that we're following all of our internal rules and regulations and guidelines about handling the data. And a little bit more on the confidentiality and data sharing agreement. So this is a tripartite arrangement between GOGLA, IFC Lighting Global, and Berenschot Management Consultancy. So Berenschot is a Dutch management consultancy firm. They specialize in working with industrial associations, and they have been our partner now. This is the 3rd round that they're partnering with us. And only select employees of these 3 organizations have access to the full data set. So anything that is put into the public domain has to fulfill this 3 data point rule. So for any category or country or region where the aggregated data is shared, there has to be at least 3 companies reporting on that data point. And only aggregated data is reported publicly, so no individual company data is reported publicly. It's only sent back to your organization, to the specific person that you have specified to us. And if you have any questions on the data sharing or other things, you can put them in the chat box, or you can also email us afterwards, and we're happy to tell you more. So now we'll go into how this new platform actually works. So for those of you who have participated in the data collection rounds before, this will look a little bit different. And for those of you who are new, you will have sort of first access to this brand new platform that we've been building together with IFC, Berenschot, and our developer partner. And the idea with this new platform is that the same platform enables you to report your data in an easier way than before. It also makes it easier for us to process the data and then report it back to you using this same platform. So at the moment, when you'll get this link from us at the end of the week, you'll have access to the questionnaire. And then later on in the spring, when you get another link from us saying like, okay, now the results are open for viewing, then you'll be able to see them through this same platform. And in this questionnaire, there are 5 sections, and 3 of those are really substantive. And so we start with instructions. We go on then to general questions, product specifications, product sales, and review and submit. And of these, the general questions and product specifications are largely pre-filled if your company has participated in previous data collection rounds. So there you will then really have to just review and check and update where necessary. And then the bulk of the data input is in section 4 on the product sales. And we'll go through now each of those sections, and then at the end I'll give a little bit more detail on different points relating to the instructions. And I'll also point out that the platform is quite intuitive and it should be quite easy to fill. At the same time, we realize this is the first time that people are operating on this platform. So we have also created a manual that you can look at, which has all of the questions of the questionnaire in PDF format. So we've sent that out to the company contacts, but you can also download that from the platform itself. We'll also post the recording of this webinar. You can also always contact us if you need more support or more help filling in the questions. So we really try to make this as easy and straightforward as possible, and we're there for you to help you through it as well. So starting now with the general questions. So these are pretty basic questions about your company, asking about your name, whether you're a manufacturer or a distributor, how many products you sell, and which countries you operate in. And one thing to note, the reason that we ask whether you're a manufacturer or a distributor is so that we can prevent double counting in the reporting. So we gather data from both manufacturers and distributors, but in the overall aggregate data, we count only the figures from manufacturers so that we're not double counting. What you'll see here, some of these questions are mandatory. Obviously, then you do have to respond to those questions before you submit. And generally, questions are mandatory if it's impossible for us to process the questionnaire otherwise. What we also ask for in the general questions section are the names of your products. So here you should enter the names of all the different products you sell. We also do have preloaded names from previous rounds. If there are products that have been discontinued, you should still leave them be here and just leave the sales data blank for those products. And it's important to get all the names of the products because the rest of the questionnaire builds on this. So you'll see that we ask for product specifications based on these product names. We ask for sales data based on these product names. If you get something wrong and you realize later that you misspelled a name, you can always come back and change it here. You should also note that the questionnaire does save everything automatically. So once you leave a cell, that data is saved. So even if your internet crashes when you're on your 4th product, the 3 previous products will have been saved. We also are asking for the regions and then the countries where you sell your products. And so this is all of your products, any of your products. You can choose that, for example, if you only sell in sub-Saharan Africa, then you can choose from a sub-list that you sell in, for example, Kenya and Ethiopia. And then all of the questions will pertain, or all the sales data questions will pertain to Kenya and Ethiopia. And this is also a change from previous rounds. So in previous rounds, we only had a subset of kind of key markets where we asked for sales data. But this time around, we've actually included all of the countries of the world so that we truly get a global view and see if there's any new markets popping up outside of where we might expect. But it doesn't mean that you have to fill data for all the 190 countries of the world, but you'll still only fill data for the countries that are relevant to you. Then going forward, this is the product specifications section. So the reason that the product specifications section is so important is that this is what enables us to calculate the social impact of the different products. So when we ask questions like, what are the lumens or what are the run times, those are all parts of the equations that then help us determine what is the percentage increase in light output, for example, or what are the savings that each household is generating. So that's why the product specifications are really important to fill in. And again, for companies who have participated before, most of this is preloaded. If you have had changes in your product, then we need you to review and check those. But generally, this process becomes easier and easier with every round you go. We also ask here whether it's quality verified, because for Lighting Global, this reporting exercise is very important in seeing where quality verification or quality verified products are being sold more or less or changing, how many are sold in each country and region. We also ask about warranty period, because that helps us with the social impact calculations as well. And this is another example of a product specification question. Notice that we ask for 3 different settings. If there's only one setting, you can enter it as the mid-setting runtime. And we ask basic questions on which appliances are included in the price, what's the panel wattage. And still more on product specifications. So here we go into the questions about pricing and whether a product is pay-as-you-go or not. So here actually the screenshot is showing 2 of the same questions. Sorry about that. But the question here is, are you offering the product to end users as pay-as-you-go? Please only answer with yes if you are the PayGo provider yourself. Now, with this question, what we're trying to get at is, are you the actual company who's interfacing with end users as the PayGo provider? So not, are you selling a product that may be PayGo enabled by someone else? And the reason we're asking this is because the way that we then calculate the revenues is different for cash basis or a PayGo basis. So if you are selling products on a cash basis, then you answer no, and then we ask different sets of questions. If you answer yes, then we ask you about the PayGo revenues. And the way that we ask about the PayGo revenues comes from a consultation that we had with our PayGo members. And there are 2 main questions here. One is the total number of clients in all different countries where you're operating who are using this particular PayGo product. So not just new clients, but the total number of clients. And then the second question, which relates to revenues, is what is the total actual cash collected in dollars for that product in this half-year period? And this includes all the payments made. So not just weekly top-ups or monthly top-ups, but also the down payments, registration fees, anything that's paid, anything that is in your cash collected from new and total clients. And we've also left a text box if there's any additional information that you want to provide, any clarifying notes or anything else that you want to tell us about the PayGo revenues. Then if you're not a PayGo provider, we do ask which distribution channels your company currently uses to distribute the product. So do you sell it to bulk purchasers, wholesalers, retailers, others, and then the total has to add up to 100%. And now to go into the sort of core of the questionnaire, which is the product sales. So here we're asking for the total number of products per country per product. And if you are a PayGo company, then we're asking for the newly added customers for each product in each country. And here, if you have clicked in general questions that you sell in Angola, Kenya, and Madagascar, those are then the countries that will show here. And if you here realize like, oh, I forgot Ethiopia, you can just go back to tab 2 and add Ethiopia, and then that will show here. Or if you realize like, oh, but I forgot my example product 5, then you need to also go back to tab 2, to general questions, add example 5, and then make sure to also add the product specification info on example 5. And then you answer, for this half year, from July to December 2016, what are the exact sales for each of the products? And don't enter any commas or any other punctuation. The software will automatically add those, and it will also add a total for you so you can check if you're in the right ballpark. The next question, and so just to go back briefly to that, here we're showing Sub-Saharan Africa. If you had noted that you also sell in South Asia, in Nepal in particular, then there would also be a heading saying South Asia, and then you would see Nepal and you would answer those questions there. Great. And here, question 25 is the total number of products sold per full year for each of the following years. So here, this is again something that is preloaded for companies that have responded before. For new companies, you will need to fill this in. The reason that we ask for this is again for the impact metrics, because we need to calculate the installed base throughout the years so that we can correctly calculate the impact. So we realize that this is not ideal to ask this every time, which is why we preload it from previous years, and it becomes easier and easier. So then the 5th tab is Review and Submit. So this is a summary page. It shows the total sales per region per product, and it calculates them automatically from the previous tab. So here, for example, if you see this and you realize, oh, example 1, Sub-Saharan Africa, it says 127, but that should really be more something like 1,027, then you can go back and see where you might have made a mistake. So this is another step for kind of a gut check before you submit. And then when you do click Finalize and Submit Questionnaire, then your questionnaire is no longer available for editing. It becomes locked. We then go forward and start working on the data to assess and analyze and process. And if we do have any questions, then we reach out to your company. And if you realize after you have submitted the questionnaire that, oh, we do need to make some change, there was an error, then you should definitely just contact us via email, and we'll work with you to reopen the questionnaire. But generally, we hope that you review your answers carefully and then click Submit before the closing date of February 3rd, 2017. Here are a few more specific points. These are all available on the online platform as well as in the manual. And you can always return to these instructions as you're filling in the questionnaire. Mostly this relates to sort of generalities of how you navigate. So you do need to fill in general questions before you fill in the other tabs. And then you can always return to any tabs. Note also that as I mentioned a few times, that data is preloaded where it's possible. Do make sure to check that and see if there's been any changes since the last half year. Then we have a few more points about saving and submitting the questionnaire. As I mentioned, you can share the questionnaire among your colleagues. So if you have one person, for example, filling in the product specifications and another person filling in the sales data, that's completely possible. But to prevent any sort of conflicts or duplication, we have made it so that one person can fill in the questionnaire at a time. So if you are, for example, filling in the product specifications and then you want to hand it over to your colleague in finance, you can just click Save and Exit, And that'll save all your answers, which are already saved in the individual cells, but that will basically close your session. And that enables then your colleague to log in and start filling in the finance sessions. And again, once you've submitted, you're no longer able to make changes. You can also, of course, contact us if you realize that you do need to make changes. And February 3rd is the last day to fill it in. A note also, what you'll see on the platform, there's tools on the right-hand side. So there's the manual that I've mentioned, which includes instructions as well as all of the questions. There's also an Excel spreadsheet export option. So this puts all of your answers into an Excel spreadsheet if you want to take that to a colleague and have them check it. Note though that with the Excel spreadsheet, that's just an aid. It does not replace actually filling in the online form. There's also frequently asked questions. If there's something that you didn't see in the manual, you can check if it's in the FAQ. We also have export PDF, so that's the same as export Excel, but in a PDF format. We have a section called Notes, which is where if you're filling it in and you have a question for a colleague or something that you want to alert them to, you can put that in Notes and share that with your colleague. And we have Contact Help Desk, which puts you in contact with Berenschot, our research partner. And note that with Berenschot, you can email them and they'll get back to you as soon as possible and forward the message to us at GOGLA or at IFC if necessary. Or you can call them. They're in the Central European time zone. Now we'd like to open it up for questions. So please, if you have a question, you can either write it in the chat box or you can just write, I have a question in the chat box, and then I'll unmute people from here. Do we have any questions? Maybe we've been so comprehensive that there are no questions. Okay, Caroline has a question. Let me unmute you from here. So Caroline, you have written your question here, I think. For our last sessions, we only had a limited number of products, 12 or maybe 15. We had to regroup some products. Her microphone doesn't work.
The question is that if there are more products than there's space in the form.
I see. So no, that won't be the same problem here. So we have built the questionnaire so that there's space for all the products that you may have. Great. Any other questions? Janet, let me unmute you. Okay, Janet, go ahead.
Hi, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm doing this for the first time. My colleague has been doing it before me, and I'm having a question relating to whether the product is a pay-as-you-go service or if it's cash sale. Is it possible to submit data for both types at the same time?
So it's per product. So for each product, you have to choose if you're selling it as a cash sales basis or on a PayGo basis.
Okay.
So if you are selling some products on a PayGo provision, then you note that in that product specification.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great. I'll give a few more minutes if people want to mull over and think about whether they have more questions. Otherwise, I'll be on the line here. If you don't have any questions and you feel ready to start the questionnaire, then just look out for a link from us at the end of this week. And do be in touch if you have any questions that come up throughout the questionnaire process. You can also always check the manual, the frequently asked questions, or simply reach out to us. So I'll stay online for any more questions, but otherwise I want to thank you for your time and thank you also for participating in the data collection effort, and we look forward to seeing your responses. Okay, that's that.